Hey everybody, it's Dr. Dave, Psychiatry. Thanks for coming to the channel today. Reminding you that if medication fixes your problem, that makes it a medical problem, not a mental problem. People tell me that's a good thing to remember, so I'm going to say it almost every video. Today I was looking at the comments on the channel, which we're getting a lot of activity on the channel these days, which is great because I know people are appreciating the information. And a viewer of the channel commented, can you give me a video on transitioning from Paxil to Lexapro? So this is a really good prompt, and I will respond to the individual, and I want to make clear that this is not a recommendation for treatment for him, whether or not he should do that, him or her, I'm not really sure the gender, but the point is that the transitioning from one medicine to another, if that's what you've decided with your provider, that's what I'm talking about today, not whether or not it's a good idea. So if you have decided to transition from Paxil to Lexapro, if you've studied the channel, watched some videos, you understand we're talking about serotonin boosters. So if your serotonin is low and you need something to boost it, then the medicines that we call antidepressants a lot of times are serotonin boosters, and Paxil and Lexapro obviously fall in that category. So the idea there would be if you're using Paxil and you're not getting the effect that you want and your serotonin is still low, then you're transitioning to a different medicine that is supposed to do the same thing in general, but for you may personally be better. So, if you've reached the top dose of Paxil or made the decision for other reasons that you're switching to Lexapro, that decision's made. So depending on the amount of Paxil that you're on in the first place, sometimes people talk about the need to taper, and it's actually very important with certain medicines. Now, Prozac is a strong serotonin booster. That is what we call a self-tapering medicine. That is to say, Prozac and its active metabolite take about 2 to 3 weeks to get out of your system. So you could literally be on the maximum dose of Prozac. In my practice, that's 80 milligrams. You can be on 80 milligrams of Prozac and stop it, and it takes weeks to wash out. With Paxil is one of those medicines that if you stop it abruptly, and some people talk about cold turkey. Well, it's not cold turkey. It's cold turkey is a reference to heroin. Discontinuation syndrome. And by the way, I did a video on discontinuation syndrome specifically last April. So April of 2024, if you want to go back, you can watch the discontinuation syndrome video. But today is about the transition and the discontinuation symptoms that we are aware of when somebody abruptly stops a medicine like Paxil. It happens with Zoloft a lot. Happens with Celexa and Lexapro a lot, that the absence of the medicine, the absence of the serotonin booster, people experience that. Now, it's not a withdrawal where you're craving the medicine. You simply don't feel right. And the not feeling right, people typically say things like, I felt buzzy, shocky, tingly. They say head whooshes. They say I felt swimmy-headed. Lots of things. Equilibrium sometimes, a variety of different ways. Electric shock, like I put my finger in a socket or got buzzed by something. Tingly fingers. These are all the things that people say. So we want to avoid that as best as possible. So the first step in getting off Paxil would be something like, if you're on the maximum dosage, well, I would typically cut that in half. And so if you're on 80 milligrams of Paxil, I'd go to 40 for a week, then 20 for a week, then 10 for a week, then either off or one every other day for a week and then off. But, a tapering system of getting down off the Paxil is a reasonable thing to do. And obviously at the same time, you're going to be starting the Lexapro. So the key here is that if you are transitioning from one serotonin boost to another, you don't want to wait until the transition period or the tapering off of the first one is finished. You want to start the other one right away. So when I'm taking somebody from Paxil to Lexapro, it's going to sound like this. Okay, I want you to take your 80 milligrams you've been taking. I want you to take half of that, which is 40 for a week, and then half of that, which is 20 for a week, and then half of that, which is 10 for a week, and then the next week you can take either one in the middle of the week or just stop it completely. At the same time, the first day that you taper, I want you to go ahead and start the Lexapro. So the Paxil is going to be getting out of your system at the same time the Lexapro starts getting in your system, and they cross over. So then I'm going to ask the patient to come back in about a month to see what we've got, and obviously give the admonition that, number one, it's not going to work right away. So a lot of people, when they do this transition from one to another, sometimes they feel even worse because they're going from a little bit of help that's not helping enough, going off of that little bit of help, and they're not getting any help at all for the first couple of weeks. So you can definitely see a dip in how people do when they're making this transition, but it's something you have to tolerate. You have something you have to try because you have to get off one medicine and onto the other. And generally speaking, working with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of patients that I've done this with, generally speaking, that's what works, and that's really how you should handle it. You definitely don't want to wait until the month after you've been off the Paxil to start something new. That's not a good program. And if you don't taper the medicine, honestly, in my experience, you really still can get the discontinuation syndrome symptoms, even if you've started the Lexapro. So if you're on high dose or medium dose, actually, of any of the serotonin boosters, so that's not Prozac, but that would be the Celexa, Lexapro, Paxil, Zoloft. Those are the big ones that I think about. You definitely want to taper those at the same time that you're starting the new medicine. So with that program, then you're going to, hopefully within a month, you're going to feel some better, and hopefully the getting off the Paxil is going to be easy for you. So that is a specific answer to a specific question about Paxil onto Lexapro. But again, that same type of scenario I would handle the same way with, say, for example, Zoloft going to Paxil. It would be at the same time that you start the first dose of Paxil, which in my book would be 20 milligrams. You would start the taper of 200 milligrams of Zoloft. If you run the max dosage of Zoloft, you go from 200 to 100 for a week, and then 50 for a week, and then 25 for a week, and then off. And that'd be just a simple transition off. And as you're getting off the Zoloft, you're getting onto the Paxil. So with the exception of Prozac, that's going to work both ways with Zoloft, Paxil, Celexa, Lexapro, and that's pretty good standard model that you can work with. So for the patient that I hope that asked the question, I hope that's helpful. If your doctor is watching this, I hope that's helpful. If you are a clinician who is not very familiar with psychiatry and you want common sense understanding of how I approach these things, I hope that that's helpful. And most importantly, I hope it's helpful that you understand this is a medical problem, not a mental problem. I acknowledge that there are mental issues in the world, but if medicine fixes you, that makes it medical, not mental. So I'm Dr. Dave Psychiatry. Thanks for coming to see me today.